Today, we're diving deep into the powerful connection between our mental state and the very rhythm of our hearts. And our guide for this is a really important systematic review from Translational Psychiatry. We've known for a while now that major depressive disorder, or MDD, is a serious risk factor for heart disease. But the big question has always been, why? What's the actual biological wire connecting the two? Well, today, we're going to dissect the evidence for what looks to be a primary pathway, a dysfunction in the autonomic nervous system.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with depression's invisible cardiac risk, then decode what our heartbeat is telling us through HRV, dig into the review's core evidence, explore the brain-heart disconnection, and finally wrap up with what this all means clinically.
Okay, first things first. Let's establish exactly why this link between mental health and heart health is such a critical field of research.
You see, there are really two main roads that lead from depression to heart disease. The first is behavioral. Things like smoking, poor diet, not sticking to medication. But we're going to focus on the second route, the direct biological one. This is a potent mix of inflammation, hormonal stress, and most importantly for our discussion, a fundamental imbalance in the autonomic nervous system.
All right, so how do we actually see this imbalance? That brings us to the key biomarker we'll be talking about today, heart rate variability.
So what exactly is HRV? Well, it's not about how fast your heart is beating. It's about the tiny millisecond-level differences in time between each heartbeat. Think of it as a non-invasive window that lets us peek directly into the balance or the tug-of-war between your fight-or-flight system and your rest and digest system.
And this image just illustrates the concept perfectly. High HRV, that top line, is flexible, it's adaptive, it's like a dance. That's a sign of a healthy system that can respond to whatever life throws at it. But low HRV, that bottom line, is rigid, it's monotonous, it's like a march. This points to a system that's stuck, one that's under chronic stress, and has lost its ability to adapt.
Okay, now for the main event. Let's really dig into the core findings of this systematic review by Goffi and colleagues.
Now, the researchers here were incredibly meticulous. They started with almost 1,000 articles and whittled them down to just 30 core studies using very strict criteria. They threw out any studies where patients were on medication or had previous heart conditions. And why did they do that? To get a crystal clear look at the pure biological state of depression itself.
So, after all that careful filtering, what did the evidence from these 30 studies actually show? Well, across a whole range of different measurements, a very clear pattern of autonomic imbalance started to emerge in patients with MDD.
The main takeaway was this two-part problem. First, something you can think of as the broken brake. This is a major weakening of the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest part of your body. Basically, the body's ability to calm itself down is impaired. At the exact same time, you get this sympathetic overdrive, where the fight-or-flight system is just stuck in the on position. This chart really pulls it all together. The key here is the consistency. Look at the metrics reflecting that calming, rest, and digest system. They are consistently lower in patients with MDD. And at the same time, the measures of imbalance, that ratio between the two systems, are higher. It all points to a system that's tilted way too far towards chronic stress. But here's where the review gets really fascinating. The authors found that while these traditional linear measures showed a trend, the results weren't always consistent across all studies. No, the most sensitive and most consistent indicators were something else entirely, the nonlinear measures. And this brings us to a key concept, a loss of complexity. See, nonlinear analysis looks at how predictable the heart's rhythm is. A healthy heart has a rhythm that's complex, it's adaptable, kind of like the beautiful, intricate pattern of a fern. But in depression, that complexity gets lost. The rhythm becomes dangerously simple and predictable, more like a circle. And that loss of complexity means the system is less resilient and much more fragile. So the crucial point here, as the study concludes, is that these nonlinear measures are simply a better detector. They consistently revealed that the autonomic state in MDD is defined by these less chaotic, more rigid patterns. This might actually be a much more reliable biomarker for the true physiological impact of depression.
So we have this clear finding. Depression is linked to a less complex, more rigid heart rhythm. But the next logical question is, why does this happen? Let's look at the leading theories that try to explain this brain-heart disconnection.
First up is the polyvagal theory. It suggests the problem lies with the vagus nerve, which is the main highway for our rest and digest system.
This nerve is absolutely crucial for how we regulate emotions and engage socially. The theory proposes that in MDD, this whole social nervous system kind of withdraws, and that leads directly to the rigid, inflexible stress responses we see in the HRV data.
Another really powerful perspective comes from the neurovisceral integration model. This theory suggests that our prefrontal cortex acts like a conductor for the heart, sending signals down to control its rhythm. But in depression, it's as if this conductor goes offline. That top-down control from the brain is lost, and as a result, the heart loses its complex, adaptive rhythm.
Finally, let's bring this all together. What does this all mean for how we understand depression and how we treat it in the clinic?
Well, the clinical relevance here is pretty stark. Multiple studies found a clear dose-response relationship. The more severe the depression was, the lower the heart rate variability. It's an unmistakable trend. This really strengthens the case for HRV as a potential objective, biological marker for how severe the illness is. What's really exciting is that this understanding doesn't just diagnose the problem, it also points towards solutions. It's opening up new treatment avenues that directly target this brain-heart connection. Things like vagus nerve stimulation and transcranial magnetic stimulation are showing promise, not just for improving mood, but for normalizing HRV at the same time.
And this diagram just illustrates the complete picture perfectly. You have to understand depression is not just in the head, it's a systemic problem. That reduced vagal tone, that fading of the rest and digest signal, is a key link in a vicious cycle that drives inflammation and ultimately can lead to cardiovascular disease.
So let's end with the central conclusion from the authors themselves because they say it so well. The intrinsic autonomic state of MDD is characterized by decreased parasympathetic tone, which might be associated with impaired emotion regulation and flexible adjustment in MDD. It connects the dots from the physiology right back to the lived experience of the disorder.
So what's the take-home message here? 3 crucial points. First, depression is systemic. It's a clear, independent risk factor for problems with your heart's autopilot system. Second, the vagus fades. A weakened rest and digest response is the primary mechanism here. And third, chaos is vital. A healthy heart's rhythm is complex and chaotic, and the loss of that complexity is our most sensitive marker that something is wrong.